Prince Harry and Meghan Markle accused of leaking highly sensitive information about a private meeting with Buckingham Palace and representatives for King Charles.
King and Queen have hosted the Duke and Duchess of Sussex with Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, their children, at Highgrove House this afternoon.
Meghan Bound is indeed happening as we speak. The royal re-entry has happened. It is being confirmed. Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet and Meghan are reuniting with their grandfather, King Charles, for the first time in 4 years.
Prince Harry, the rogue son, who is crash landing into the UK today. And there's this gigantic furore, as always, has erupted around the little entitled brat.
Have you ever noticed something strange? Every single time Prince Harry says he wants reconciliation, another controversy somehow follows. And this week may be the clearest example yet. What started as a legal setback quickly turned into questions about trust, private conversations, and whether the royal family can ever truly move forward.
Breaking today, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle accused of leaking highly sensitive information about a private meeting with Buckingham Palace and representatives for King Charles.
Because it wasn't just the court ruling that had people talking, it was everything that happened after it. The timing, the palace drama, the reports of private meetings, and one question that refuses to disappear. If everyone genuinely wants peace, why does every attempt seem to create even more chaos?
My view, and I've said this to you a lot before, is I just think if I'm King Charles, enough of this bullshit. Just strip them of the titles, Meghan and Harry, let them do their thing, stop the drama, the circus that applies to them everywhere they go, and just keep them away from us.
Let's break it all down, because once you put the timeline together, this story is far more complicated than the headlines suggest. For Prince Harry, this was supposed to be another important visit to the UK, a chance to focus on charity work and show the public he was moving forward. Instead, before the cameras even settled, his legal defeat was dominating the news, and everything else became secondary.
So Harry is in deep trouble on a whole load of matters, and he knows, because yesterday he tried to blame, and this was the GB News spin, he tried to blame soaring London temperatures and a heat wave as the reason why he snuck into the Chelsea hospital and was not pictured at all.
Court losses happen, public figures lose legal battles all the time, but this one felt different, not because of the result, but because of everything surrounding it. Supporters believed Harry was standing up for privacy. Critics argued he was fighting battles he was increasingly unlikely to win. Either way, the decision guaranteed another wave of headlines. And once those headlines started, they didn't stop.
Prince Harry's court case against the Daily Mail, and he has been officially deemed a loser. In fact, all of him and his co-claimants, there are 7 among them, were determined to be losers in this scenario, and this could not be more of a disaster for Prince Harry, especially as he begins his week-long series of engagements in the UK.
But here's where it got more interesting. While everyone focused on the courtroom, a completely different story was quietly gaining momentum, one involving Buckingham Palace, private meetings, and reports that left royal commentators asking the same question: who is leaking information and why?
He had this secret meeting, which was pictured by the Mail on Sunday, with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's then senior staff members, Meredith Maines and Liam Maguire, at a private members club close to Buckingham Palace. And everyone wanted to know, how on earth did they get these pictures? Who was leaking this sensitive information?
According to several media reports, a meeting involving representatives from both sides of the royal family eventually became public knowledge, which surprised many observers, since these conversations are usually handled quietly, behind closed doors.
Given that the information was leaked to Charlotte Griffiths, the thinking was, well, it couldn't be from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle because they're suing the woman. But Charlotte in the Daily Mail today has revealed that is indeed what happened.
Yet somehow, details found their way into the press. Some commentators suggested the leak came from people connected to Harry's team. Others rejected that completely. No official confirmation has settled the debate, but the discussion itself became the story. Because inside royal circles, trust is everything. And once trust weakens, every future conversation becomes harder, and every attempt at reconciliation feels further away.
David Sherborne, that's Prince Harry's slippery lawyer, and his line of attack, is that in the months leading up to my court appearance, Harry's circle had been very leaky indeed. I can now reveal that during the summer of 2025, a close advisor to Harry and Meghan had contacted me out of the blue and invited me to lunch at the Ivy restaurant in London.
Think about it. Imagine trying to rebuild a broken relationship, and every private conversation you have shows up in the newspapers days later. Would you feel comfortable speaking openly? Most people wouldn't. And that's exactly why this story has captured so much attention. It isn't only about who said what. It's about whether genuine trust still exists at all.
This included a front-page article which ran in July, suggesting that Harry and Meghan were attempting to rebuild their relationship with King Charles. It revolved around the fact that Liam Maguire and Meredith Maines, Harry and Meghan's US PR chiefs, were to hold clear the air talks with the monarch's aide, Tobin Andre, in London. I was duly tipped off about the meeting, which was held at the Royal Overseas League near Clarence House. The attendees settled themselves on a balcony plainly visible from the public park below.
For years, Harry has spoken publicly about wanting a healthier relationship with his family and more privacy for himself, which is exactly why these reports created so much discussion. Critics pointed to what they saw as a contradiction. Supporters said the situation was being misunderstood. Public opinion split right down the middle again.
The Buckingham Palace confirmed on Friday, today, that King Charles and Queen Camilla hosted Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and the couple's 2 children this afternoon. The reunion took place at Highgrove House, the monarch's private country residence in Gloucestershire, England. No images are expected to be released from the reunion, and no further details will be provided, as it was a private family meeting. Wow.
Then, almost immediately, another controversy arrived. Security. This has been one of Harry's biggest ongoing battles for years. He argues that security concerns limit his ability to visit Britain with his family. Others argue that as a private citizen living overseas, different rules naturally apply. It's a debate that never really disappears. It just returns every few months, usually louder than before.
He demands security for all his family. They said, no, you can't have it. They've offered him a place at the palace to stay. And then eventually they say you can have it, but he takes so long to try and accept it that by the time he accepts it, they say the offer's been rescinded, it's too late, you had to say yes earlier. In other words, the usual train wreck Harry stuff.
This visit was no exception. Reports pointed to disagreements over accommodation, timing, and protection arrangements, with different outlets telling the story differently, which only fueled more speculation. Some commentators argued Harry was being treated unfairly. Others believed the palace simply followed procedure. Neither side budged, and the public watched another royal disagreement play out in real time.
This is par for the course when he goes over there with this, on and on objection to what kind of security he's going to get. He's got tens of millions of dollars over here, reportedly over $100 million. He can afford his own security. He says, oh, well, they can't have guns. You know what? You don't need guns. There haven't been a ton of plots where we've seen people actually taking shots at the royal family. What you need is a bodyguard. You need, over here, be a former Navy SEAL type, somebody to stop somebody from coming over and physically getting into your grill, attacking you, or being too, forthright in their interactions with you. You don't need some sniper team. He's just pretending that.
But maybe the bigger issue wasn't security at all. It was perception. Every decision, statement, silence, and appearance now gets examined frame by frame, not just by journalists, but by millions of people online. And that brings up a question commentators couldn't stop asking. Where was Meghan? Whenever Harry appears alone at major events, speculation follows, even when there's a completely ordinary explanation like scheduling or family responsibilities. Because public perception isn't shaped by facts alone. Sometimes it's shaped by who's standing beside you, who's missing.
Breaking today, an increasingly desperate Meghan Markle flies into the UK, if you believe them, which I never do these days, with the children, Archie and Lily in tow. But of course, she refused to turn up alongside her own husband at his major Invictus event, where once again he looked like a broken man giving an awkward interview to Alison Hammond of Woke ITV, who, in a true dereliction of journalistic duty.
Meanwhile, Prince William and Princess Catherine kept carrying out their usual royal engagements. No dramatic headlines, no public disagreements, just another quiet week of ribbon cuttings and charity visits. Ironically, that quiet became part of the story too, as commentators compared the two approaches. One brother constantly responding to controversy, the other largely avoiding it. And that's what makes this whole situation so fascinating. Every royal story today carries two competing narratives. One side sees Harry as someone protecting his family under extraordinary pressure. The other sees someone whose own actions keep creating the very headlines he says he wants to avoid. Neither narrative is going away anytime soon.
Prince William was not there. He was at a charity polo match in Windsor, supported by Princess Catherine, so they weren't there. There's no plans for the estranged brothers to reunite during the visit. So a lot of what we had guessed happened. Here is a picture of Highgrove House. It is very beautiful with all the moss and everything. But this is where they got to finally have a reunion. Man, to be a fly on the wall for that one. To see Meghan and King Charles, Queen Camilla, and the small talk for that exchange. How long was it? I guess more details may still filter through, but this is a big deal.
Which brings us to the real puzzle. If reconciliation is genuinely the goal, why does every step toward it seem to produce another public disagreement? Rebuilding trust usually needs privacy, patience, and consistency, but this story keeps unfolding in the opposite environment. Public statements, leaked details, conflicting reports, endless speculation. From the palace's side, every interaction now carries risk. One misunderstood meeting can become global news. One leaked detail can reignite debates people thought were over. Which raises the real question, has this relationship reached a point where even good intentions aren't enough anymore? Because that question matters more than any single court case.
One source even suggested that Harry's spokesman's statement that the Duke would stay at Buckingham Palace may have been a trap designed to force the palace into coming good on the offer for the sake of appearances. But Charles was not for turning. Over the weekend, the suggestion that the Duke would deliver an on-camera reaction from an undisclosed location set alarm bells through the palace. If Harry, and this is the point that you were making, Rafe, delivered an excoriating attack on the King's courts from under the sovereign's roof, it could prove embarrassing for Charles.
And royal commentators increasingly agree the biggest challenge here isn't legal, isn't security, and isn't even the media. It's something much harder to repair once it's broken: trust. Trust is almost impossible to measure, but everyone knows exactly when it's gone. And according to many royal commentators, that's the real crisis facing this family right now. Not another court case, not another headline. Trust.
That the pictures of the Royal Overseas League gathering had ended up in the Mail on Sunday, suggesting, quite falsely, that the palace was responsible for a grotesque betrayal of trust. Now, just 6 months later, the prince was impugning my integrity while swearing that his people never leaked and that stories that ended up in my newspaper must have been obtained illegally.
Every relationship has a breaking point. Sometimes it happens all at once. Sometimes it builds slowly, one disagreement, one documentary at a time, until people stop asking right and start asking whether things can ever be repaired at all.
This is actually so serious now, because all of the talk all along in terms of this sort of rapprochement between Harry and King Charles has been based on an understanding that it must stay confidential, Rafe, that he must not continue to leak information. Now, I have reported, Rafe, time and again that he can't do that. Like when he met Charles at Clarence House, information was immediately leaked into the US media.
That's why recent reports about private discussions attracted so much attention. Not because private meetings are unusual, but because of how often they're in public afterward. The headlines always end up bigger than the meeting itself. That puts King Charles in an incredibly difficult position. On one side, the king, every decision reflects on the crown. On the other, he's still a father, and those two roles don't always point in the same direction. For any parent, family conflict is painful, whether you're a king or not. Do you keep the door open or draw a firm line? There's no easy answer.
The King has privately hosted the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, who's flown in with the two children from their holiday home in Europe, we believe, to Highgrove House in Gloucestershire, the King's private house in Highgrove in Gloucestershire, with the Queen present as well, which I think is quite significant. Harry and Queen Camilla have not exactly been on the best of terms ever since the publication of Harry's memoir, Spare, back in 2023.
Prince William, meanwhile, has taken a completely different path. He rarely responds publicly, rarely addresses speculation, and almost never enters public debates. He just keeps working. Official visits, charity engagements, the schedule barely changing. Whether or not people agree with that approach, consistency builds an image of stability. And in an institution built around stability, that matters, especially now. That's why comparisons between the two brothers keep dominating the conversation. Not because one is right and one is wrong, but because they've chosen entirely different paths. One speaks publicly, the other almost never does. Of course, none of this is simple.
Absolutely. Breakdown, problems in the marriage, there's fighting going on behind the scenes. Absolutely. It makes no sense to have all of this disorder and disarray of what we're doing, what we're not doing, all the security we need. And it's like, get a hold of yourself, handle yourself. Like, you are completely losing it right now.
Because families rarely are, especially ones living under constant public attention. Even silence becomes a headline, which raises a real question commentators keep circling back to. Has media attention become part of the problem, or is it just reflecting problems that were already there? Every new report creates the same cycle: reaction, commentary, speculation, another headline, and it starts all over again.
That's why he wanted to stay in Buckingham Palace, Rafe. I find that so despicable. He actually wanted to deliver his victory statement or film something from within Buckingham Palace. I mean, that is just so bad. Rafe, can I ask you what you think about Meghan's disappearing act, though? Because the one thing that you will say about Prince Harry is that he is always there for that woman, no matter what terrible things she does. I mean, I think of the example of her giving, this moment. Do you remember that? When she sort of mocked.
That's exactly why public opinion stays so divided. Some believe Harry has been unfairly criticized for years and is simply telling his side of the story, prioritizing his wife and children above all else. Others believe the interviews, books, and public statements have made reconciliation far harder than it needed to be. Two very different conclusions, built from many of the same events. But here's something both sides tend to agree on. Nobody wins when family disagreements become public entertainment. Not the palace, not Harry, not William, not the king. Every new chapter seems to leave everyone further apart than before, and that's exactly what made this latest instead of charity, the headlines focused on instead of the news cycle circled back to trust. Again, maybe the real challenge isn't convincing the public anymore, maybe it's convincing each other. Public opinion changes daily. Families don't. Real damage isn't repaired by winning headlines. It's repaired through private conversation, honest communication, and time. Whether those conversations are actually happening behind closed doors, only the people involved truly know. Everyone else is just watching headlines, not relationships. Photographs, not emotions.
It's, he sort of supports his wife through all of these things. And yet, Rafe, have you noticed that any time the chips are down and that he's in deep trouble or he's being criticized, she makes herself scarce? And look, she may well fly in overnight because remember, they have to do this Althorpe filming at Althorpe for a documentary that they've got planned about the 30th anniversary of Princess Diana's death.
Still, perception shapes reality, especially for public figures. If enough people believe trust is gone, that belief becomes part of the story itself, and that's an incredibly hard story to rewrite. The irony is impossible to ignore. Harry has often said he wants a quieter life, yet nearly every visit to Britain becomes one of the biggest royal stories of the year. Whether that's about circumstances, media interest, or choices made along the way depends entirely on who you ask. But one thing seems certain, the spotlight isn't fading. Every appearance will keep getting analyzed, every statement dissected, every meeting turned into headlines, because when the world's most famous family disagrees, people pay attention.
Everyone's understandably focusing on Prince Harry losing this court case against Associated Newspapers, but we need to look at the bigger picture here. This is also a great loss for those involved in Hacked Off, the campaign group that is trying to introduce state regulation of the press. We know that was the ultimate aim because Leveson 2.0 was mentioned no less than 55 times by the complainant's lawyer, David Sherborne. So this isn't just a victory for freedom of the press, but also for the British public. Because without newspapers reporting without fear or favour, then there is no accountability for the rich and famous.
So where does this go from here? Nobody really knows. Maybe another meeting happens. Maybe things slowly improve. Or maybe the distance keeps growing. Only time will tell. But until then, the real questions remain. Can trust ever be rebuilt after years of public disagreement? Can private conversations stay private again? Can reconciliation actually happen when every step becomes international news? Because history remembers outcomes, not arguments. It remembers whether families found their way back to each other or drifted further apart. That chapter hasn't been written yet. And maybe that's exactly why millions of people keep watching, not because they enjoy the conflict, but because they're still wondering if this story can end differently. What do you think? Can Prince Harry and the royal family genuinely rebuild trust, or has too much already happened? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next royal update, because another major development is already making headlines.